I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Judges, we cannot solve the problem with new problems. When we talk about election, of course, election is really important. But as we know, both developed and also developing country, they just focus to do something quick. I mean, how can they took a long process in one side? They also have a short process. They just think about something that instant for the paradigm, for example. They just think about what are the benefits for them instead of they have to waste a lot of time to do something that the progress or the result is not achievable in the short time itself. Yes, elections talking about the future of the nation, so that's why it just talk about the leader, the system, and the standard. That the government just focus to do something that good, for the example, good election and also good voters. But the government forgot about how qualified the politicians itself. So that's why we oppose this motion, just because we do believe it is not because lots of voters are not uneducated. The fact that they are educated, they know and they understand what happened in that country. For example, they know what are the politicians, they know what are the political parties. So that's why it is coming randomly. For example, randomly vote, not because they don't understand or they didn't know what happened. It's just because they losing their trust. I mean, the society losing their trust to the government itself. So what we talk about in this motion is actually better when we talk about how qualified the politicians. So they give trust to the and choose, like they have to provide and they can prove to gain more trust to choose by the society itself. Like campaign and also another programs that coming by the political parties is good enough, rather than we have the knowledge test for the voters in order to vote. So that's why we beg to oppose. The government said that the rhetoric and the popular narrative get influence to the society. I mean, of course, that is really enough for them to vote. So that's why we don't have to doing this task in order to vote. Like when we talk about democratic country, for example, I mean, the sense of democracy doesn't work. How? Just because we do believe that this democracy give them free to choose, for example. So when this task happens, I mean, they don't get the right to choose. I mean, lots of people think twice to do the test. Like they have a lot of something to do in Japan, for example. They think that work is the best idea rather than have to doing this task in order to vote, right? So that's why we don't think that this knowledge task is the best idea in order to vote. Yes, we do believe that we also want give this nation as good as we can, something that good election, good voters, but something that government forget is the good politicians itself. So that's why we just focus to the something that's good coming than politicians. So that's why it will create society belief to them, society could choose them, and also it will create something that government said randomly vote. There is no randomly vote when the politicians prove to the society that they are good enough. So that's why we don't have to give this knowledge test. Yes, government said that it is the best idea, but the fact when we give the test or we give the knowledge test, we have to pass the knowledge test in order to vote. I mean, it is also still reducing the voters. Our status quo right now, also lots of people don't use the right to choose. How about this test? I mean, it will bigger, like reducing the voters is a big risk. Like they think that they have to test again and again, like they have to study more, learn more about another knowledge, for example, in 5 years, like government say. So that's why it is not really give guarantee that they will be able to test, for example. It's really hard for them to improving their willingness to test, for example, just because they think that I get the knowledge enough, so we don't have to test. That's why it is really not fair for lots of people really get the chance for the fact that they don't get the chance for the test itself. We believe that this can give the balancing voting, like how the right itself. We cannot get the right of the people who are not choose, for example. The fact that it's not give the benefit for the society, like only only 50%, for example, who doing the test, and the rest of them is not doing the test. So I mean, it will get the influence for the election itself, rather than that we just stay in our status quo right now. In the end, when we implement this, the standard is really hard to accept, judges. So that's why we don't have to pass this political general knowledge test in order to vote. Now I'm gonna prove you that the society or the voters are good enough to get the knowledge without the test. I mean, the knowledge, it is coming from the program, or something like we can say campaign, for example. I mean, they can more educated with this. So this kind of the things could be something that they are really easy to choose the leaders, for example. Not because the test that we can say that the test, when someone passed the test, we can say that he or she is good. No, ladies and gentlemen, the fact that in school, for example, smart student cannot pass the exam once just because he or she sick, or they got the chance, for example, to do the test, rather than someone, or something that they really not good enough, but the fact they pass the test. I mean, it is really unfair, and we cannot say that it is the great measurement. So that's why we cannot say test is the best idea. So what we talk about in here, the problems is not because they are uneducated or didn't get the knowledge. Yes, it's because they are losing the trust to the government. So this test could create them, still make them confused. So I mean, the democracy itself doesn't work. Like they have to free to choose. The fact that they take the right, for example, just only for those who are actually can doing the task, ladies and gentlemen. And the government also didn't give us the guarantee like it is really easy to implement, just because they don't tell us like what are the actors, who are the actors, and also how to assess it, and also how to publish it. I mean, it is more complicated rather than our status quo, right? So that's why we don't have to take the test. Like it is really hard to implement, and it is really hard also for the voters itself. Like the voters still have to the voters still have to learn more and study more about this kind of the things. The fact that they have a lot of something to do, right? So that's why this not really important to create our nation being good. In fact, that government also how to qualify the politicians or the political parties itself. So this argument coming the opposition that we just believe that in our status quo right now it is better, just because the voters still can vote whatever she or he wants, and we just think that this coming from the trust of the government itself. So that's why we just have to qualify the government, something like we just for example allow them to make public account for the political parties, and also politicians to get closer with the citizens. So it will create something that trusted for them to vote. And also we just talk about that in our era, it is really easy for them to access the information, to get the knowledge about the politicians and the political parties itself. So that's why the voters also know what's best for them, what are the leaders for them. So we don't have to taste them. In fact, that this test is really complicated for them, and also it's really can be something that wasting their time. In fact, that they still have to learn more and more. So that's why we beg to oppose. Dipotong bisa